We're joined now by Senator Bill Cassidy. Bill, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it on this election day.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Looks like the numbers are going to, when it's all said and done, are going to be pretty high for the turnout for this election day.
You know, I think Trump is right. He's really driven a lot of issues, and one thing he's also driven is people's interest. Love him or hate him, and people do one or the other. I think they're motivated to go vote.
You know, one of the top issues when people have responded to polls is why they're voting or what they're most interested in. One has certainly been the economy, and that's been holding true for several decades now. A 3.5% economic growth rate and a 3.1% wage and salary increase in the third quarter. How successful is that, and what does that really mean?
It's incredibly successful. When President Obama's administration ended, we were being told that 1.2 to 2.5% growth was the most we could hope for. People like Jeb Bush would speak about 3.5% growth, and the left would mock him. I wrote an editorial published in the Wall Street Journal. If we can sustain 3.5% growth, we take care of our deficit when it comes to Social Security and Medicare trust funds. But the left told us it couldn't happen. Within 2 years it's happening. It's thought it's going to be 3.5% for this entire year. It's incredibly good. If people are voting their pocketbook, I think they're going to be voting Republican.
What about the barometer of employment? How does the employment figures look?
Employment figures, fantastic. Again, the unemployment is record low. It's actually holding steady because people who had left the workforce are rejoining the workforce for many reasons. One, the job market is tight. Employers are paying more. That wage index you mentioned growing, that's an average. The actual growth among lower income levels is higher. It's a 5% growth in the lower income levels because employers are having to bid for labor. That's a good thing. Again, if people are voting their pocketbook, they're voting Republican.
Another hot button issue that people are responding in the polls is health care. What's at stake with health care in the vote today?
Yeah, so obviously there's two different visions of health care. The left wants to go to single payer. Now, to put that in perspective, Medicare for all, the way Bernie Sanders defines it, would cost $32 trillion. That's with a T. Even if we doubled corporate income tax and personal income tax and cut what we pay providers by 40%, that's in his plan, we would still not have enough money. Now, that is just a pipe dream. And I'm a doc who's worked in the public hospital system for 25 years. Politicians overpromise, they underfund, classic example. On the other hand, I think there is a way going forward. One thing I've been pushing, which the administration is trying to implement, price transparency. You can actually lower the cost to the patient, to the insurance company, therefore to the people paying the premiums, by putting competition in. There was an article in NOLA.com about a year ago. A woman goes, she gets her physician visit, loves her physician, orders blood test, goes down the hallway, gets the blood test. Cost her over $300. She found later she could have had the same blood test for $34 down the street. If she had known that, she would have gone down the street. And the system would have saved $300 minus $34. So I think one way we can make healthcare more affordable, price transparency, introducing competition. There's other market-based ideas. Again, that's our vision as Republicans.
All right, this one is coming in from one of our listeners. They are saying that Republicans are trying to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security to pay for what he's calling a tax scam. Your response to that?
Of course, that's not true. The Medicare and Social Security trust funds are their own trust funds. Those payments go out independently of what's going on with the regular tax code. And by the way, the tax code, which he calls a tax scam, is that which has given us 3.5% growth. So, again, the left's perspective is not our money, it's the government's money. And if we get to keep more of it, somehow the government's getting cheated. But on the other hand, when we have record low unemployment for high school dropouts, record low unemployment for veterans, for people of color, women doing better than ever, that's something really positive. And that is linked to that Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which he does not like.
Well, if these are different funding sources, where did this come from, that Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security are going to be sacrificed in order to make up a tax shortage?
That's a standard. That is, when it comes to Medicare and social, that is a standard kind of, okay, Democrats are going to stick it to Republicans. Let's accuse them of cutting Medicare and accuse them of cutting Social Security. By the way, we have an issue in Louisiana called windfall elimination provision. Talk to any state worker. She has her quarters in the Social Security system, but she's getting a cut in her Social Security payment. That actually happened under the Bill Clinton administration. So, whoever the texter or caller or tweeter is, he's kind of conveniently ignoring that problem specific for 16 states, Louisiana being one of them, called WEP, again, happened under a Democratic administration. Regarding Medicaid, Medicaid is a program which is cannibalizing state budgets, just cannibalizing. If you look how much Louisiana spends on Medicaid, it has grown almost exponentially over the last 2 decades. And along the way, Louisiana has less money to spend on anything else. Again, the support for higher education has decreased, so therefore tuition has risen. Student debt has increased dramatically, all because there's less state general fund support for higher ed. And that's because there has to be more state general fund support for Medicaid. There's a way to approach Medicaid. I've got several ideas out there that would put it on an even footing, that would protect federal and state taxpayers, that's basically us paying in 2 different directions, but also take care of the patients. That's one of the ideas I advanced. Maybe we'll get some traction going forward.
We're talking with Senator Bill Cassidy on this election day about some of the hot issues that's driving heavy voter turnout. Another one of those is immigration. And as we speak, we have a caravan that has been heading towards the southern border of the United States. What's happening there? What are you hearing as far as what will be done in sending these troops, deploying troops down there to eliminate this, what some people are calling an invasion?
Well, clearly we have to protect our borders. No country can allow anyone who wants to come in to come in. It just doesn't happen. It's never happened in the history of modern United States. There's always been some sort of screening process. And everybody is for legal immigration, but you can't have 5,000 people show up and just walk in and absorb into our economy, getting social benefits, et cetera, without having some process. So the caravan's moving forward. Different governments along the way, Guatemalans, for example, and the Mexicans, are trying to kind of diffuse it because they know it's going to be a problem. There's eyewitnesses who report that the organizers are putting children and women in the front. So in that way, if there's a confrontation with police in Mexico, it makes the news because it's women and children being hurt. There's a certain amount of, in fact, there's a lot of cynicism behind this. The president's trying to secure our southern border. And I think we should support him in doing that and look for a way that these folks have their harm to them minimized because they are vulnerable, but at the same time protect the integrity of our sovereignty.
Senator Cassidy, we have an amendment on our ballot in Louisiana. We're asked today to vote on whether juries should be unanimous rather than a 10-2 decision for a conviction on felonies. I've kind of been researching to find out why this should be changed, and I really can't get any other answer than that, well, there's 50 other states that do that, and we should do it. And, I go back to the old mama's rule, if Johnny jumps off the bridge, will you jump off the bridge too? I'm kind of wondering why we would need unanimous jury votes or what benefit there would be in it when Supreme Court votes and congressional votes and all votes, a lot of them require nothing more than a simple majority. Why would this be a benefit on this unanimous decision for juries? Are we saying that the other cases are not that important, that we don't have unanimous decisions on those other issues?
No, we do have unanimous decisions on capital offense cases.
Right. Well, that's been in for a while. But I'm talking about other votes, whether it be a Supreme Court vote or your congressional votes. Majorities rule in those cases. Are they less significant than – and I understand that a felony, in particular in the case of a second-degree murder, you determine life imprisonment for a person. That's very, very important. But I don't think we should look at the others as being not as important. No, we don't. But to kind of pursue your analogy, I think this is a case of Johnny jumping off the bridge and the rest of the class not doing so. There is wisdom among those who, the majority sometimes. And a fundamental principle in our justice system
is you are innocent until proven guilty. And this came to be highlighted under the Brett Kavanaugh proceedings. The left was going after him, presuming his guilt, when it really should have been a presumption of innocence. And I'm not here to rediscuss everything about Brett Kavanaugh, but conservatives just went to the mattresses saying someone is innocent until proven guilty. Now, the standard that's used in federal court and every other state but Oregon and us is that should be unanimous. Now, that's at some point there is a wisdom in kind of the collective. And I know if that was my brother or if that was you or me, we would want that beyond a reasonable doubt to be unanimous. Frankly, it's actually the Kavanaugh thing that kind of precipitated my thinking on this. I'd rather be with Texas, Arkansas, and Mississippi than Oregon on this because I think those states are more like us. So let's be like let's be like Mississippi, Arkansas, and Texas. I just think it's fair to the person, better for society, collective wisdom.
Senator, we're just about out of time. I want to thank you for joining us on this busy election day, and I'm sure it's going to go well into the night looking the returns on things that are coming in. And thanks for your analysis on these hot-button issues that is going to really cause what I think one of the biggest turnouts we've had in recent history.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. We'll be right back after this and turn it over to the audience. Got a lot of text message in on some of the senator's comments, and also we'll take your phone calls at 504-260-1870. 83% say it was very important to vote in the midterm elections. 17% said somewhat, and nobody says not at all. I bet that's going to change. So we'll be right back after this.